Part 3 of my old neighborhood horror stories. Hey, folks, are you ready for another horror stories about my old neighborhood? Well, this time it's going to be about my last apartment before I moved up here when I moved out of my mom and dad's because I've switched jobs. Well, this apartment that I've moved into several years ago was not that great. Well, it was a small apartment, but it was a great starter home, but it wasn't a neighborhood where you start a family and raise kids because of all the crime and drama that's been happening. Remember, we moved there in my hometown back in March of 2009 because that's been a long time because I switched jobs. I received a job working at Kmart. At that time, I was a cart pusher. So we were very tight on cash, and that's the only affordable apartment we can ever find. Well, it was meant for low income. So I was kind of low income at that time. And I remember hearing my neighbors fight a lot, and they have kids, which they cried all the time because they are always depressed because of what's going on. So remember that one December she kicked out the boyfriend, and the boyfriend screamed, "You open this motherfucking door." So anyway, I was terrified, and she really did kick her out. As a matter of fact, he did get arrested because when the police arrived, he was screaming, try me," like they were going to get into a fight. But the police came, arrest her. I mean, they arrest him. But the next couple of days, he was released, and he came back, packed his things, and moved out. I remember there was these rowdy kids that always throws rocks at our apartment. As a matter of fact, it had dented several of the front area of my apartment. I remember my sister coming out, yelling at them, saying, "Please stop." And we've called the landlord several times. They claimed that they've talked to these trailer park kids, but nothing has ever done. It was continued. Remember, my neighbors had company over. You know, they always sit on our porch drinking beer, smoking cigarettes. Remember, I'm having my dog with me. Sometimes I have to go to the back to the apartment to get in, but that shit always happens. Well, I remember having to call the police a few times on them because her and her psychopath mom, which is the grandma of those kids, got into a domestic dispute. So the police responded that afternoon. All they can do is talk to them and take the kids to their grandmas. Well, that was not that great. I usually feel guilty when I have to call the police on somebody because they are either being very loud, destructive, or they constantly scream at each other while there's kids present. So the very last apartment, something like that happened back when I moved into my new house, and from my very last apartment, which I've moved out earlier this year, but I will tell more stories about that real soon. So there were some creepy ass things that's been going on at the last apartment in my hometown. There was several drive-by shootings, lots of loud parties with loud music. There were some nights that I can't sleep because of it. I thought for sure I was getting sleep apnea from it. You know, cannot sleep, will always feel like a zombie. but I managed to fight it and managed to move somewhere else where I'm currently at. We were trying to find a cheaper apartment in my town. However, we cannot get it. So, remember, there was also lots of rowdy teens like hanging out near my apartment, you know, doing bad stuff, breaking into people's cars, smoking weed. I remember that morning there was kids in front of my door skipping school smoking weed. I saw a jar filled with a lot of weed, and oh shit, I thought that if the police is going to come, I could get into a ton of trouble for it, but that was not mine, and I do not do something like that. So I don't know what the hell that came from, but hopefully where I'm currently at, nothing will get to it. Remember going on several road trips. Remember there was full-grown adults sitting on our porch drinking several beers. My mom almost got into a fist fight with one of them because they refused to get off my property. I was super pissed about that. I don't know, that have devastated me a lot. And then that same apartment, an intruder came and stole half of my game collection along with my movie collection. I told a story about that in my intruder stories. I was able to recover most of my stolen belongings, but this is what you gotta put up with by living in a low-income neighborhood. The crime there is risen, and it has always been. And I was worried to death that I was going to get shot at that old neighborhood. That's how bad it was. But I needed a place closer to work, and that was the only thing that was the cheapest. So I am not going to learn from that mistake again. I'm going to do a ton of research and see what I can find with the crime, if the surrounding area is safe or not. But I want to tell you all this story about what I've experienced at that last apartment back when I lived in my hometown. Remember, I was still living there. I went from Kmart being a housekeeper working at a hospital for 3 years. So from 2012 to 2015, I was working on being a housekeeper at a hospital, which was pretty alright, but there was like a ton of things that was high stress and everything. So I switched out and moved up here, and which is pretty good. So I've been enjoying it all. Well, folks, there you have it. That is all my stories, videos about what I've experienced at my last apartment on my own in my hometown. Not that pleasant, I tell you what. And until next time, folks, thanks for watching.